Welcome to Snow Talk, where the Snow and Ice Management Association brings you trends, stories, news, and personalities that are shaping the professional snow and ice management industry. This season of Snow Talk is sponsored by Western, Fisher, and SnowX. So settle in and let's talk snow.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Snow Talk, podcast of the Snow and Ice Management Association. I'm Cheryl Higley, Director of Education and Content for SIMA, and I want to thank Fisher Engineering for sponsoring today's episode. We are in the midst of the renewal process and the sales season for winter services, and I have a great guest today to talk about setting your company up for success in this vital area of the business. Jack Jostes is CEO of Ramblin Jackson, a snow and landscape marketing agency with over 150 clients throughout the U.S. since 2009. He's been a SIMA member since 2022 and has been a featured speaker for us in person and online. Always a great partner for SIMA. Jack also hosts the Landscaper's Guide to Modern Sales and Marketing video podcast and is the author of the best-selling books, The Tree of Good Fortune and Get Found Online. Jack, welcome to Snow Talk.
Thanks, Cheryl. Pleasure to be here.
I'd like to touch briefly on renewals before we jump into searching for our new customers. For many areas of North America, snow has made a disappearing act in the last few years. Their customers then tend to have short memories. Did it snow? Are you sure it snowed? How much did this cost me? So they're pushing back on pricings, typical contract structures, things like that. How would you counsel people as they are in this renewal process in terms of communicating this to their customers?
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. So we are in renewal season, and one of the other things that I think presents a challenge with renewals is changes in point of contact. So maybe you're renewing to somebody that you have a relationship with. Maybe this person you've worked with for 3, 5, 10 years, and you still need to sell and you need to earn the business again this year. But I think it becomes even harder when there's a change in point of contact. And I would treat them both similarly, whether it's a renewal for an existing client or a new point of contact with an existing account. And part of it is helping people understand what was accomplished in the last year, and ideally taking survey throughout the year about how are you feeling about working with us. I think there's the renewal happens months in advance of the actual renewal, and we want to be proactive in I use Net Promoter Score, and Net Promoter Score is a question: how likely are you to recommend us to a friend on a scale of 0 to 10? And I recommend that snow contractors send that survey 4 times throughout the year. So that way you have data points along the way to see how is the customer feeling about you, because the best way to renew is to do a great job and make sure you have good communication during the service, not just at the end of the contract, but when it's the middle of winter and you have this survey and you get a 6 out of 10 and they say, hey, I'm feeling a 6 out of 10 because I'm unhappy. Ideally, you can take care of that issue, communicate directly with them, and then survey them again 3 months later and bring this to the renewal conversation. Hey, as a reminder, you were feeling pretty unhappy with this issue, and we took care of it in this way. And how are you feeling about how we handled that? So that's one thing, is taking care of those. And then the broader topic, I think that makes sense in general, but with the changes in snow, and maybe there wasn't much snowfall last year. One of the presentations I saw at the symposium last year was by Ton Reinhardt about win-win snow contracts. And he presented about having a readiness fee, and for some clients, charging them a readiness fee to either keep a piece of equipment on their property or to be essentially on call for them. And I liked his pricing model because it had enough in there for the readiness, and it had enough snow removal built into it that it was sustainable for his business, and it had protections for the client if they went way over.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of contractors kind of seeing that the way they used to structure their contracts just isn't working anymore. So we're seeing caps We're seeing floors, we're seeing ceilings, rebates, all of that kind of thing. So people are starting to think a little outside of the box than your typical time and materials or per inch, per push, things like that. So that's good advice. Anything else there before we move along on renewals?
I think that finding out what's changed for your client and not just assuming that because it's the same number of square feet that it's the same thing. There may be other changes for them. There may be other goals. There may be, I think another issue is potentially downsizing, and maybe for commercial real estate, they have fewer employees and different things. So I think meeting and getting clear on what's changed in the business and how does that impact their goals for the next year is going to help you renew that account instead of just assuming their needs are the same as they were the year before.
Great advice. So I'm guessing that these are some of the things that you've seen some of your clients maybe making these mistakes in the renewal process. What are some of those other challenges or mistakes that you see your clients make? Well, hopefully they're not making them anymore because they have you. But how you see snow and ice companies, those mistakes that they make when they're in the selling process?
Yeah, some of the mistakes that I see snow and ice companies make in sales is not selling the first meeting. So if you talk with any snow and ice company, they're going to tell you that they want qualified leads and they don't want to waste time with leads who aren't qualified. We're all in business. We all want to meet with qualified leads, but no one wants to necessarily be qualified, right? So what the number one mistake that I see that impacts the rest of the sales pipeline is not having enough initial meetings. It's really having that initial conversation with people that's going to allow you to qualify them to move to the next step, to get to the proposal phase. But if the first step in your sales process sounds like a qualifying call, chances are people are going to be reluctant to it. They're going to know that it's a sales call. One of the things that I help my clients do is to instead position it as an assessment or a survey or a contract review or whatever it is, something that's going to deliver value. Because if you deliver value and you position that call as valuable, you'll have more meetings and that'll then free up the rest of the sales pipeline.
How would you say, especially for smaller contractors, getting your foot in the door to even get that first meeting with them?
Well, so as far as getting your foot in the door for the first meeting, I think there is a combination of marketing that we want to do. And some of this includes outbound sales, but at a high level, having both inbound marketing where we're generating leads online, and then also outbound marketing where we are sending direct mail, we're doing in-person networking, we're calling, we are attending events, we are bringing meals to people. Some of this is account management, some of this is asking for introductions and referrals. I've found that having a combination of inbound and outbound marketing, and then also both online and offline media, so multimedia marketing, having print as a part of it, is a key thing that works in business to business sales.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that after we get into kind of finding those ideal customers, how to identify those and all of that. We're just going to take a quick break right now, though, and thank our sponsor, Fisher Engineering, and just hear about 30 seconds from them. We thank them for their sponsorship, and we'll be right back.
For more than 70 years, Fisher's been building snowplows and spreaders for waymakers. The ones who lead so others can fall in line. The ones who refuse to back down even when the snow is piling up. The ones who make plowing look easy. Not because it is, but because they're that good. Forged from steel but made in the New England snow, our roots ground us. They're also what drive us. So to all you waymakers out there, know we're out here too. Visit FisherPlows.com or your local dealer today.
Ramblin Jackson's Jack Jostes talking about sales and marketing. Jack, a key concept behind your book, Tree of Good Fortune, and in your work with snow and ice contractors is focusing on attracting what you call hell yes customers. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So hell yes customer is when you get a lead through your website, or someone calls you, or you get an RFP from a certain customer. It's a hell yes. We are staffed to take care of this client. We're going to do it profitably. We're going to enjoy doing it. And many snow and landscape companies go through a phase. I actually think every small business needs to go through a phase in some ways of doing everything for everyone. And in order to really grow your business, though, and to be profitable and to be competitive, you want to rally around having a hell yes customer, where we're not everything for everyone, but we are excellent at taking care of a specific type of customer. So this then plays into the marketing that you do and the salespeople that you hire and your proposals and the language. But most snow and landscape companies have very vague marketing. They talk about doing commercial. But what kind of commercial? Are HOA communities commercial? I think they are. And Cheryl, I know we've talked. Do you think at SIMA do you guys in general consider HOAs to be commercial?
I do. I think most of us do. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too, because it's not, even though it's residences that you end up plowing, it's typically you're going to have a property management company or an HOA board that you're working to. So it's more of a business to business sale. Or do you do hospitals? Do you do municipalities? Do you do apartment complexes? Do you do retail? Do you do industrial warehouses and different things? So getting really clear on which of those types of customers do you do, and then which ones do you not do, can save you a lot of time, because HOAs are kind of a hot topic with people. I found that generally snow and ice contractors either love doing HOAs or they hate doing HOAs. And if you don't get clear on that in your marketing, you're going to generate leads from them that end up taking time. So once we get clear on our hell yes customer, we want to design our website and have photos and videos very, very visual. We want, when that customer's on our website or looking at our photos, or if they Google us and they see those photos on our Google listing, that they are of whatever type of property we are going to maintain. Because if they don't see that, then they're going to wonder, well, is this company staffed to take care of the type of property that I have? And then we can take that into sales and learn how to ask questions around the pains and problems that particular customer has. And that's really the key, I believe, is having that hell yes customer and having the consistency through your marketing and sales, and then ultimately operations.
It's interesting what you just said. You know, many of the people in the industry and a lot of our SIMA members, very few of them they just do snow removal. They just do snow and ice management. They have, those ancillary businesses, whether it's landscaping, maintenance, design, whatever. I'll go to some websites just to look and see, like, kind of just to get to know some of the companies. I can't even find snow on their website sometimes. So how do you combat that if that's a key point of your business, but all you see is landscaping? Is that something that will detract, from a potential good lead?
I think that missing what you're talking about, missing mentions of snow removal, missing pages about it on your website can create doubt for the customer. Because if they go to your website and they look at your photos and it's all residential, I have clients who do residential landscaping. Some of them do design build, some of them do residential mowing and maintenance and lawn fertilization, all these other services. And that's cool. But if I'm a Amazon shipping center or I'm a Costco parking lot or whatever, I don't really care that you can do beautiful backyards for homeowners. I want to know, can you plow my snow on time during a big snow event or not? And when I only see the residential photos and testimonials from Mrs. Smith and how much she loves her yard, and I don't see the things that I care about, it creates seeds of doubt for me. And that can reduce the chance that if I'm in the research phase, let's pretend that I'm hiring a snow contractor for a number of Costco's or whatever it is, I'm going to be doing that research online and vetting people as part of my process. And so the photos absolutely can impact that. And that also, I want to be clear, this doesn't mean that you cannot have different Hell Yes customers. As an example, you may have a Hell Yes residential customer who's going to spend between $50,000 and $100,000 on a patio, and they're going to do maintenance. And then you may have a different Hell Yes customer for your commercial properties. And that's where my book, The Tree of Good Fortune, is all about having a limb for each city and a branch for each service. And so this is where your website can expand to have pages for each service and each service area. And that's how then when people are Googling, they land on those individual pages. Or if you already have a lead, you can send them a link to that page on your website where they can read more. But if you only have like a home page and it doesn't mention snow, then you're probably in hot water.
Everybody likes to look at the pretty pictures. Everybody likes to look at people plowing snow.
Well,
they don't want to be reminded of it.
Right. They don't want to be reminded of it, but I think snow plowing is awesome. It's like, if you get the right footage of it, it can look really cool. And not everything is a pretty flower, right? It could just be a cleared lot, and the action behind it. I think that snow removal is fun, and the video of it can really capture it, but it's also difficult to do this in a low light or nighttime environment. Mm-hmm. So I think there's an art to creating the right visual content for snow.
Right. Okay. When we were talking earlier before this podcast, you mentioned that finding those Hell Yes customers, your staff is a part of that, can be a part of that process, whether it's, teaching them to ask questions about the pains, the problems, that goes to the point you made about not checking in with them at the end of the season kind of thing. And then you really are in hot water if they really had a bad season. Is there anything there that you would like to talk about how to get your staff involved in finding those Hell Yes customers?
Well, one thing about getting your staff behind Hell Yes customers is, and this is challenging because I have a small business myself, and I think you go through phases where people wear multiple hats, right? And you kind of need Swiss Army knives on your staff, people who can do a lot of different things. And eventually what I've seen work best is when you do have salespeople who can specialize, meaning if you have your commercial sales team and it's different from the residential sales team, and then potentially even taking it a step further of, if your goal, I think this again goes back to what are your goals? And if your goal was, just as an example, I had a client who was doing both HOAs, and they hated doing HOAs. Mm-hmm. And they also do Costco's and the Amazon fulfillment centers. And and I asked them, if we could wave a magic wand, what would that customer list look like? And they'd say, well, we would get rid of all the HOAs and we would only have the Costco's and Amazons and industrial. And so if that's the case, I would put money behind it. Prepare your sales team and do one of the strategies that I wanted to share with you is really a combination of outbound sales and marketing. And what I mean by that is there's a book by Chet Atkins called The Dream 100. And this is literally making a list of 100 clients that you want. And if you're doing commercial work, you probably already know who these are, but you can create your criteria. Maybe it's a certain square footage. Maybe there's other criteria that you can use, and you can find these lists online, find out who these people are. And I would do a multimedia, multi-touch marketing campaign. And what that might look like is sending out a print sales letter. So I personally do a lot of print marketing, print tool guides, print thank you letters, all these different things. So we're going to send this list over a year. We're going to want to touch that list, 10 to 20 times. And some of those touches could be connecting on LinkedIn, finding out who in the company, who are the people, connecting with them on LinkedIn, sending them mail, Maybe you host some sort of networking event or something and you call and invite people to it. All of these are little touches along the way that can build the relationship with that customer and hopefully get you into the RFP process with that customer. And if you do get to that RFP phase and they're interviewing 3 other companies, but you've built up some of this relationship with them, they may be more likely to work with you, especially if you have some of that social proof behind it. So if one of your Hell Yes customers is industrial, fulfillment centers, having a page on your website that's full of that, and maybe some photos and videos and testimonials on that page would arm your salesperson to then go to that portion of your Hell Yes customer list and really reach out to them. So that's how I would ideally leverage both inbound marketing, this content on my website, search engine optimization, Google ads, and outbound marketing. They can really complement each other.
You mentioned the Chet Atkins book. I'm guessing that goes towards identifying your Hell Yes customer. And you talked a little bit about, do you want to do HOAs? Do you want to do industrial? Do you have any guidance on if somebody really isn't clear yet on who their Hell Yes customer is, the best way to maybe assess their business to figure out who those types of companies are or customers are?
Yeah. So the Chet Atkins book and really all of these ideas do involve having a clear, I call it Hell Yes customer. Some people call it target market or ideal customer. You've got to get clarity around who that is. So there are 3 key things that make up Hell Yes customer. The first one is demand. There needs to be demand from this Hell Yes customer for your key service in your area. So there needs to be demand for what you do. There needs to be profit. You need to be able to fulfill that demand profitably. And there needs to be a third and reasonable amount of passion. So I don't want to lead my business by passion. It's the only thing that matters, because if there isn't enough demand or profit, then it's just a hobby, really. But what doesn't work and what contributes to the employee retention issue is when you are selling clients that you're not really staffed for, or they're not paying you well enough, and your staff is stretched too thin and they don't like working with it, or they have really awful customers that burn them out. So those are kind of the 3 broad buckets, demand, profit, and passion. And some of the ways that you can get there is to sort your QuickBooks by profit and loss by customer. If you have good books, you should be able to run profit and loss by customer. Or if you're using, I don't know, there's a variety of different so I've heard so many different softwares that people use, but whatever software you're using, you should be able to align your time tracking and expenses to be able to generate a profit and loss by customer report. And this is how I did it. I literally took 3 years worth of data and I sorted it in descending order so I could see the biggest profit at the top. And then I started grading it and assigning categories to it. So in the commercial snow removal realm, it could be how many of them are HOAs. Okay, we're going to mark all of them. We're going to look and see how many of them are hospitals or whatever it is. And this can give you, I think, looking at it in a spreadsheet and having a little pie chart. And then there's grading it. The passion part of it is like, how many of these clients would I want to work with again? And you may give them a score on that. And that's one of the ways that you can arrive at this. I have one client and all they do is HOAs. And so they don't do any residential landscaping. So this is very, I'm not necessarily saying that this should be your Hell Yes customer if you're listening, but as an example, this company only does HOAs. And so when they're selling, they can say, hey, does your last company ever get distracted by, design build projects that now they can't handle what your maintenance needs are? And so they can really harp in on those pain points of the customer to stand out. So I hope that helps the audience figure out some ways to find out who your Hell Yes customer is. And I have to say that you have to be open to this changing. right? So a lot has changed since the pandemic, and in like commercial real estate in certain parts of the country, like Class A real estate is really hurting in certain areas of the country. And that may have been bread and butter in the past, but it may not be where we want to focus moving forward. Or you could be in a market where that's growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. You talked a little bit about some of the inbound marketing that you should be doing with your website. Anything you want to expand on that before we maybe switch gears to outbound marketing or the commercial RFP processes that a lot of our snow pros get involved with, depending on the type of clients that they're going after?
I think I just want to reiterate that there's no one silver bullet. I don't know that you could just do outbound marketing without having an internet presence. And I don't know that you could just wait for your internet presence to produce all the leads you need. And that really what I see working best is a combination of inbound marketing and outbound marketing, and that they should be done together, meaning you can have landing pages on your website for each Hell Yes customer, an HOA page, a hospital page, and so on. And you can align your outbound marketing to drive traffic to those, to have salespeople have conversations with those markets.
To the RFP conversation for just a minute, one of your clients is Jim Turkin with Cornerstone Partners. He is also a great SIMA member and a great partner to this industry. We had an event with him last October where we talked about the RFP process, and one of the things that he really dove deep in, and it goes to building the relationships, we talked about at the beginning, was almost getting everybody on the same page of, does snow removal mean to you the same thing snow removal means to us? Can you just talk a little bit about maybe that and how your clients, you work with them to maybe get those relationships to build, get everybody on the same page, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So Jim also, he presented this at my Landscaper Summit and won because he was so good at it. His presentation was so good. He shared how to rewrite your client's commercial RFP to win the sale. So he's pretty open book about his sales strategies. He's very generous with the industry, and he actually introduced us. I was just looking through our email history. So if you're listening, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Yeah. So Jim's an incredible networker and runs a great business. One of the things that he does really well is he forces his clients to get clear on the definitions in their RFP. And so he will often rewrite the RFP so that way there's very exacting language. And what this does is it prevents people from turning in very vague proposals that are missing the scope of work. And that allows him to then compare apples to apples and say, hey, I understand that our proposal is more than the other one. However, are you aware that it's missing this, it's missing this, it's missing this? And by coaching his client to create those definitions and write a better RFP, the client then sees those things and ends up trusting Jim more because they're like, wow, this guy Jim took the time to help me understand what I'm buying. And it helped me understand that if I hired this other company, I was actually going to be missing out on some things I really thought I needed. And I think that, and this goes back to a point that I made earlier in the podcast, is that you may have a new point of contact who is, for some reason, tasked with hiring a snow management company, right? And they may be experienced and knowledgeable in what they're doing, or they may be new and just they've inherited an RFP from the past. And in any case, that clarity that comes from this process can really work to your advantage.
For sure. There is certainly a lot of turnover in that space, and that just kind of reinforces the importance of having those relationships and having more than that one point of contact every year before, during the renewal process. Anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners about this season that we're in of sales, renewals, anything that you're seeing with your clients in terms of trends, challenges in this space that we should be aware of?
one of the things that I'll share that's working, I have a number of clients who've been doing this, some of them for over 10 or 20 years. And the ones that are the most successful are doing the behaviors all year. And what I mean by that is, although the contract may renew ideally in September, but we all know some of them are coming in October, or even as late as November or December. I don't know why you would wait that long, but having this system of multiple touches along the way can help keep you top of mind, having conversations with people ahead of the renewal. So it doesn't seem like, oh, we're just having our sales call, but having those conversations along the way can really maintain the relationship and help you ultimately close more renewals and close new sales. So that's one thing that I would say is kind of a timeless thing that's working, is putting in the work all year round and not trying to be everything to everyone.
Jack, well, thank you for joining me today on Snow Talk. This is not the end of our discussion, I don't think, because you're going to be at the Snow and Ice Symposium in Pittsburgh this June 25th through the 28th. You're going to be exhibiting. You're going to do some volunteering for me. So just tell our listeners a little bit more about what you're going to be doing and how we can network with you.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. I'm really excited. Ramblin Jackson will have booth number 1428. So I'll actually be filming our podcast live there. So I'm always looking to just network and interview interesting people. So if you'd like to be a guest on my podcast, I'm just doing like 5-minute quick podcast interviews. To stop by booth 1428 on Thursday or Friday, the 27th or 28th, and we'll give you a free bag of beef jerky. Also, I'll be doing a snack and chat on the 26th at 12 p.m. on the topic of marketing, and I'm hosting a breakfast jamboree about recruiting with social media. So we're going to share how to attract hell yes employees with social media. A lot of today's conversation was about clients, and a lot of it works also for marketing to get employees. So I'd also like to offer listeners, in case you're not going to those things, that you can grow your snow and ice company with a proven sales and marketing strategy. I'd love to send you a free copy of my book, The Tree of Good Fortune, The Landscaper's Guide to Modern Sales and Marketing. You can just use promo code SIMA at treeofgoodfortune.com. And I'll ship you a book within a week, and also 3 of our top snow and ice management podcast episodes. So that's treeofgoodfortune.com. Use the promo code SIMA.
Appreciate that. Looking forward to seeing you in Pittsburgh. I'm hoping it's going to be a great show. Thank you again for taking the time. And thanks again to our sponsor, Fisher Engineering, for sponsoring today's episode. And we'll talk to you next time on Snow Talk.
Thanks for listening to Snow Talk, sponsored by Western, Fisher, and SnowX. Check out all of our episodes at sima.org/podcast.